to staff in regards to property matters. And we also received impact training as council. So I need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Maybe and then Councillor Lackey. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you. So we'll move right along with the agenda. And actually, sorry, any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? No declarations to be made. So the adoption of the agenda is next, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Fody. The agenda be adopted as circulated. There should be an addition to the other business item, which is in regards to the boat procurement.
Mr. Worship, that's actually
Information items. Okay. So 10.1. So the 10.1, there will be an addition in regards to procurement of a boat for the building department. Oh, it's already on there? Oh, it's on the, but it wasn't published that way. So sorry. Okay. If you want to add to that.
And if I may, Your Worship, under staff reports 9.3, based on the discussion for the firefighter compensation policy, there was a question about we should formally acknowledge when it's going to be implemented. So the recommendation on the report, in addition to passing the revised ENR bylaw, is to, and that council pass the fire compensation policy retroactive to January 1, 2023. So that change has been made in the original report and is part of the staff reports.
So it's part of the staff reports. Once we get past the agenda, if anybody wants any item pulled, we can do that at that point in time.
2023, January 1st, 2020. So we'd start off this year. Oh, I'm sorry. I may have.
Nope, 2023. Okay, so it's the agenda be adopted as circulated and amended with the addition of 10 under 10.1 for boat procurement for planning. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is moved by Councillor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the February 13th council 2023 council meeting minutes and March 6th 2023 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the January 31st 2023 committee of adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. I'm struggling. My apologies. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to mention that in February 13th, the council deputy mayor actually chaired that meeting. It doesn't indicate that. And I know we haven't done that in the past because, Madam Mayor, you've been here for every meeting to chair. So I just wondered if it could reflect that he did chair that particular meeting and you zoomed in through.
Through your worship, I will review those minutes again and make those changes if need be. Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions, errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Fody. The council approved the staff reports as recommended at the March 6th, 2023 committee of the whole meeting. So that motion is all of the staff reports. Does anybody wish to have anything pulled for further discussion? I have Councillor Maybe and then Councillor Groff.
The ones that I have listed here are 9.2, 9.4, and 9.7, please.
So are they to further discuss this, to go against the recommendation, or are they for additional information?
Additional information.
Okay.
And 9.8, just a very simple question, if I may.
Okay, so we won't pull those reports. We'll put the motion on the floor. And then if we need to amend the motion to pull those reports, then we will do that now.
I don't need it pulled. Just a quick question.
Yeah, and so a motion, I just need to, so the motion is on the floor as it is. So Councillor Guerrero, I'll ask your question, then I'll go back to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you. With respect to the cemetery grant policy, we were asking the public or the appropriate cemetery boards to submit an application. Is there a form that we can use for that generated yet, or is it just ad hoc?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, we actually do have a form. It's quite simple and easy to for completion, which we will use again. There might be some tweaks, but we're trying to make it very simple and friendly for the cemetery boards, recognizing these people don't have a whole lot of time and we don't want to confuse things.
That's available this time, would it be?
If it's not, it soon will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so go ahead, Counselor, maybe a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On 9.2, it was about the overtime and meals. I know I brought that up, and I know there was an explanation, but I didn't know whether there was something more coming back to us on that.
Go ahead, CEO.
Thank you, Worship. Can you refresh my memory on? your
Well,
concern?
basically, it talked about if the staff had to come in from overtime, that they wouldn't be paid for their vehicle travel at that time. And then there was a separate issue about the meals, and that was the compensation or how the meals were actually looked after at meetings and such.
So with respect, maybe I'll invite Director Holiday to talk about Public Works and how that works, because it's under the collective agreement with that. For meals, if we are expecting staff to work through a meal break, then we will provide a meal. So if we start and we have, I don't know, a morning session that drags into the afternoon, generally a luncheon will be provided for people and paid for by the township. For getting called in, it's a good question. I think we would mirror what happens in the collective agreement with our Public Works people.
He's trying to pull it up.
Okay. I think if someone has worked their normal day, if it's an administrative person and we need them back on site for whatever reason, I think we would try to make some sort of allowance for some time, maybe time in lieu, but and then time worked at whatever task was required would probably be an overtime.
Depending on the hours that they actually put into the actual effort of putting things right that they came in for.
Yeah.
And then maybe a buffer zone. Yeah.
Wherever possible, we encourage people to bank, if there's overtime, to bank it
Yes.
and then use it in time in lieu, but it would be time and a half. Sorry? Meals. Yeah. Meals would be provided. We're going to have to get back to you on
Okay,
that one.
Not a
for
problem.
sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And then the other one is for Director Holiday. It was about the vehicles in that report. It talked about the vehicles that you were getting rid of. But in saying that it cost X to buy a new vehicle, it didn't list the new vehicle. So I was kind of curious on what it maybe was there. I haven't got that one in front of me, but
So-
anyways. Yes, in the report,
It
it
said
had,
replacement of the old, and it had the old,
Well, it
but it
had-
didn't say what we were replacing it with.
yes, that's right.
When you were away last week, or no, you were away last week.
I'm not sure which report.
So
we're
the
speaking to.
report was in regard, or that was a fire report.
Well, that was in a,
Was that
sorry, it was
3/4
the,
ton. Sorry? 9.4 capital year-end reporting and capital reserve fund update. And it was speaking to the replacement of certain vehicles like a 2013.
yeah,
what have you.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
But it didn't identify
done.
what we were replacing it with.
okay. So in my, through your worship, in my previous reports where we were acquiring the vehicles, that's where I speak to actually the acquisition of the vehicle and how much the cost is. We don't actually include the vehicle as a trade-in. We sell it separately afterwards. So that's duly noted that going forward, we can tie those two together to.
Yeah, just so we know what we're replacing it with would be very
Absolutely.
helpful.
Okay. Councillor Lackey.
I think for clarification, I think I understand what Counselor's getting at is we approved that we have the description when we approved them in our past meetings. They came individually with exactly what they were, but not included in.
Correct.
And-
So, but going forward, it would be helpful to know what we are replacing with whatever the new
Yeah,
truck or
yeah,
piece of equipment is.
Again, yeah, just information item more than anything. And then 9.7, the only one I mentioned there was the signs, because we talked about children's signs and all kinds of things, a couple. I guess there was about 4 different signs there.
Hidden
And it-
entrance, no exit.
Yeah, and it came down to that somebody would request it and have to pay for it. But if we found a zone where we know of this situation and it's not asked for by a resident, are we going to put them up anyways at our cost for safety?
So through the Highway Traffic Act, the signs that are required are speed signs, which we are obligated to put those up when we create speed zones. We have areas on our roads where we do require warning signs for the safety of the motorists. But there are additional ones. I've seen signs for cattle crossing, for tractors on the road.
Yes.
And typically municipalities try to recoup some of the cost of those because they are site specific
Yeah.
for the residents that request them. So it's just the cost for the sign is, for the hardware itself, is about $200, but then you put the staff time on top of that, and it does have some
Yeah.
budget implications as a result of those. So
Yeah.
it's just cost recovery for the first installation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Jameson, go ahead.
Since he's raised, and I'm sorry, I have to ask, I understand the principle. I guess what I'm concerned about is if somebody requests a sign, is there a process that you use to assess whether they should get that sign, or are you just responding to somebody with the $400? I mean,
So in terms of the validity of the signs, there is another book within the highway traffic, or within the Ontario Traffic Manual that governs how we install the signs, which signs should be installed where and how. So we do give that information back to the residents as well when they are requesting those.
I just make one more specific comment, Your Worship. Through you, there's going to be construction at Pleasant View on Haskins Point Road all summer. And the township is doing some work down there as well. Residents have raised the prospect of having a temporary watch for pedestrian sign go up there. So what's the process? Come to you and ask about that temporary sign for the summer, because we know it's going to be a heavy summer. What do we do?
So what we have provided to residents on Facebook, on our website, is to go through the ask a question, report a concern, and that creates a service request for us, which then creates a work order.
Councillor
That way we can track those.
Lackey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, with regards to fees. From last week, there was a question, I believe, on the fee for tenders, and there were 2 parts. And since we have the director here, I know we had an instance with, it could have been the tender for this particular building where the constituent had to pay $150 to find out whether the color was going to be blue or yellow. And then the other part of that fee was, for people we call
Services.
for services. They also have to pay to have their name included as well. And if you could clarify why that is, and it seems to be a deterrent more than anything. It leaves a bad taste in contractors' mouths.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. So the fee that is being charged is from the system. It's system generated. It's the cost that is paid to be a part of the program. And every municipality has gone to this digital tendering now with COVID, and you couldn't touch paper for a while. So everybody has gone to this process, and it makes it cleaner. What I can say in the instance of being able to look at the tenders is that you can log on, anybody can log on and see what it is. But to register a bid, that's when you can't register a bid without being registered with the system, where you pay your $150 fee. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 1 fee per year, not per submission. I'd have to clarify that, but I believe that it is.
And I believe that you can bid on any tender that's put up on Bid and Go in the area. So any other municipality that's using that particular system, it opens it up for you to be notified of other opportunities, as well as the paperwork that has to be submitted for those tenders. Follow up?
Yes, please, through you, your worship. Can we communicate that
Absolutely.
somewhere in big print?
Yes,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions in regards to the staff reports as presented and recommended from committee of the whole? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay, next item on the agenda is information items, and the motion comes forward from Councillor Maybe and seconded by Councillor Fody that the information items be received and filed. So, there is a number of them there. Does anybody have questions in regards to the information reports? I have Councillor Lackey and then Councillor Fody. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, worship. And through you, 10.2 and 10.4. The records management implementation project, I understand that it's we've got some funding available for that. I was looking at the $40,000 for the work to be done by yet another contract employee. Looks like $40,000 for about 6 months of work. That's pretty hefty. And I understand in talking to the clerk that it's up to that amount. Nonetheless, I understand one part of it is that we need this done. There is some urgency as we have to have it done, by December. But is it not something that we have the ability to do internally?
Internally. Go ahead, CAO.
Short answer, no. Staff are busy, and this is something that would be managed off the end of various people's desks. There are thousands and thousands of documents that have to be migrated over to the new system. That's not just changing, doing a copy and paste and moving it into a different directory. This is looking at the document and attaching metadata. So it's basically putting tags on the document saying what it's about so that we can search it and find it using various keywords. So you have to know what the document says, what it relates to, and identify keywords that go with it. So it's a tedious, long process. The cost to the township, as you noted, we have some grant funding. The $40,000 is an estimate. 65% of that cost would be, or $26,000 would be covered under the grant funding. 14,000 would be to the township. To take staff time away from the core services that we're providing so that they can do this, so that we would meet our obligations under the grant funding to have it done, would impact services that residents have come to expect from us, and other projects wouldn't advance as quickly. So, I mean, it's up to council what your decision is on this, but this seems like money well spent to keep people on task and working to the projects that the council has approved and providing the services that the township residents deserve and expect.
And just for clarification, this is a contract employee, not a full-time employee that will remain on with us.
That is a term employee that has a set start date and end date. This is nothing to our head count.
Got it. You had an additional question on 10.4?
Yes, I do. 10.4. Oh, the drinking water. Great report. And I love acronyms as long as I understand what they are. Can we ask that they use full sentences or give us a directory of definitions? Because I found it very irritating, and due to the fact that we are personally responsible for this system and this report, I find the fact that I don't know what they're referring to is kind of irritating.
Director.
Thank you. Noted. We will have a conversation with them about that. Additionally, something that I didn't include in my report that I should have is that we've been invited for a tour of the water and sanitary systems here in Lansdowne by Aqua. They're hoping that we can do that once the spring melt happens, April, May. And all of council, they would like to have you do a tour of the systems and see what exactly we're managing.
I've seen most of it, all of it. But anyways, I'd be happy to take a tour to see if any additions or any April, May. So probably closer to the end of April, 1st of May type thing. Okay. We could probably get it done at the end of a day. That way it could be, okay. So if we could ask for like a 4 o'clock tour or a 3:30, that would be great. Any further questions or comments in regards to the staff reports? Go ahead, Councillor Foti. Or sorry, information items, not staff reports.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Director of Operations. On our water report, was there anything new in there that was different to you? To me, it looks like our maximum water capacity is much higher than was first indicated. Is that true? It's showing on page 5, I believe it is.
My apologies. It's been a while since I've looked.
Well,
at
it's a
this report.
combination of if you look on page 5 of this report, it's a combination of what is being used, rate capacity versus our available. And then for whatever reason, I assume it's a hot, dry year. I don't know. I thought it was ironic that in a year when our St. Lawrence River was flooding its banks was also the highest year of water use that year. Was it that dry summer? I really don't recall. But our water usage, our water flow comparisons have gone down. Is there any explanation for some of this? Do you know of?
What page is it on of the
5.
package?
5 on the water report
Oh,
package.
do you have you don't have the
I don't bring in the
full package?
Part of,
sorry.
through your worship, I think part of what we're noticing with this trend as well is that our water meters were not functioning properly. So our
Right.
recorded water usage
Wasn't
Okay.
accurate.
wasn't that accurate.
Right.
So now this was part of the reason why we undertook that process in 2023 of replacing all of our water meters. So we actually have good functional data now
Right.
with the amount of water that we are using through each location.
Follow up. So that bodes the next question. The meter readings that have happened since the new meters have been installed, have they been higher?
Yes, they have been higher.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to clarify my comment, we were charging them for the base rate of the
Right.
15 cubic meters, and now we have good data that we're basing it on. And in some instances, yes, the consumption exceeds the 15 cubic meters.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions in regards to the information reports? Councillor, maybe?
And thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you on 10.2 of the new report here. I had noted here, what is e-scribe?
E-scribe is what we use for I'll let the clerk answer that.
Thank you, and through your worship. So eScribe is a meeting management software. So very similar to iCompass, but it does have some more enhanced features, specifically regarding records management, and it would be in line and applicable to the electronic records management system that we are currently implementing, which is Laserfiche.
Okay. No,
And just for clarity, I use that through the county.
oh,
The
good.
county uses it as the meeting software. So the software that we use, which is, sorry, I'm blanking. What's the one that we use now? iCompass, thank you.
Compass, yeah.
So we use iCompass here. They use eScribe, but eScribe is more compatible with the records management systems and easier.
Yeah.
And that's how I get all my packages
Yeah,
from the
which is-
county.
Which is very good. The only last thing is on the conclusion here, I did notice that the word "the" was doubled in one of the lines, so.
We'll make that change. Thank you. Okay, so the motion that remains on the floor is oh, yeah, sure. 10-1. Oh, vote. My apologies. Yes, we added it and there we go. You can do your verbal report. Fine, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Gorell, for the reminder. I just wanted to speak to Council very quickly about a matter that's come up, and it requires some rather quick action. If you recall, in the 2023 budget, there was $50,000 approved for the building department to acquire a boat, so that it would help them with their inspections and their enforcement activities out on our river and lakes. The building department went out, well, currently, if they need to go out They have to take a fire service boat out of service, take the time of a member of the fire service to run the boat, and then they're out for the day. It's not the most efficient or effective use of fire department resources, to say the least. 3 quotations were obtained, and this is a package deal for a 17-foot boat, motor, trailer, boat cover. The lowest came in at $44,899, and the highest for the same boat was $74,595. With taxes added on, we are over our budget by a little less than $5,500. The concern is if we wait until April to come to council to get approval on this, the boat probably will not be there. The marina that quoted with the lowest quote has some stock, but they called this today and said they just sold one of the boats. As the weather improves, people are going to start thinking about boats, and we might be out of luck at this price. This procurement also beats the $50,000 threshold for 3 quotes and a buy. I have, under the procurement policy, the ability to waive the requirements when it's for a single source. It's something that I don't do lightly. I think this is the first time I'm exercising that power under the procurement policy, but I think it's a good case given the need to get a hold of a boat, which is a tough thing to buy these days, and that it's not that far over the $50,000 limit. So I'm comfortable in my role of CAO to approve it. But it's the budget thing that I wanted to bring to council's attention. So what I'm proposing is, subject to anybody having any strong concerns about this, we would go ahead and order the boat. I would come back to council in April to seek approval for what I've talked about tonight, and we can all go forward.
Are there any major concerns with the procurement of the boat for the planning department? Go ahead, Councilor Grau.
I know that this came up a couple of years ago. There was a $20,000 item in the capital budget, which was grossly underestimated. What type of boat are we looking at? Steel?
It's a low 17-foot kind of metal, aluminum.
Okay, it is metal, it is aluminum.
Yeah.
And
115 horse motor.
ooh, water skiing.
Get out.
And have we thought of, this would be in the building budget, is that correct? So the building budget pays for itself,
That's correct.
okay? And the item that is coming up later tonight, it really isn't affected. We'd have to deal with the financing or whatever of this, because later this evening, we're talking about the items.
The building revenue,
building
and
revenue
the transfer
report.
from the reserve
Correct.
fund. That's
Correct.
correct.
So, but ultimately, the building services do pay for this item. Okay, and it is a steel boat.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Okay, thank you for those questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you very much. I'm sure that the Director of Planning and the building inspectors look forward to a busy summer out on our rivers, lakes, streams, wherever they happen to take that boat. And I'll let the CAO speak to that.
One last comment on that. The boat will be badged with the township logo. So the people out on the water will certainly see the presence of the township, and hopefully that will have a sobering effect on some who would otherwise consider building without a permit. So there is that being seen out there enforcing out on the water, which hopefully will improve things for
Maybe we should put enforcement.
Enforcement, yeah, put it, building enforcement.
Township flag on the back. of it.
Okay, next item on the agenda is under action required items moved by Counselor Fody, seconded by Counselor Maybe, that council receives the annual building revenue and expense report as information and that it will be posted publicly on the TLTI website, and that council approve the transfer of $61,336.67 from the building department reserve fund, being the 2022 building department deficit. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Counselor Maybe, and then Counselor Lackey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just, my only question is there any expected surplus at the end of the year this year? Because it has been very busy, and just wondering if there's anything expected.
Thank you, through your worship. So the transfer rate now for the deficit is for 2022. I can't project 2023. However, one of the things that isn't accounted for in 2022 is septic. So we've taken over septic. We projected that that we would likely bring in enough to cover the cost of delivering the service. If council recalls, we also did an update to the building fee bylaw last year. So I'm hoping that bringing the construction costs that were in the bylaw up to more realistic amounts will help offset some of the additional costs. We're in a transition period right now in the department in terms of bringing on the new inspectors, the training, taking over the septic, as well as accounting for the overhead costs that have never been allocated to the department. So I'm hoping this year's going to be a monitoring year to see where we land. Depending on where that falls, if we need to adjust our fees or if we need to adjust other things to try to make sure we still have money remaining in the reserve fund should we encounter another deficit, but hopefully everything levels out this year and our projections are on point.
And the boat's going to be able to add to those.
Yeah.
So thank you for that clarity. Counselor Lackey, go ahead.
No, thank you. The director's answered everything I'd noted.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is moved by Counselor Fody, seconded by Counselor Maybe, that the council approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment file number D14 2022-015 for the property municipally known as 333 Clark Drive, and that the bylaw number 07-079 zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands be further amended as per Exhibit G, draft bylaw and Schedule A to amend zoning bylaw number 07-079 to report number SR-060-23, and that council grant 3 readings and final passage to the amending bylaw. Discussion on this motion. Okay, I have no hands up. Seeing no questions or comments, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Sorry, I'm just trying to go through my package so I'm on the right page. Next item is moved by Counselor Maybe, seconded by Counselor Fody, that council approve the application and zoning bylaw amendment file number D14-2023-001 for the property municipally known as 902 Jibway Lane and the bylaw number 07-079 zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands as amended, be further amended as per Exhibit E, draft bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 07-079 to report number SR-062-23, and that council grant 3 readings and final passage to the amending bylaw. Discussion on this motion. No hands up. I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next item is operations report SR-054-23 RFT OPS 2023-001 Kid Road North Culvert. Moved by Counselor Fody, seconded by Counselor Maybe, that council approve the award of tender OPS 2023-001 for the replacement of the Kid Road North Culvert to Robert Nash Excavating Inc. in the amount of $202,024.19, inclusive of net HST. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Counselor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only big question is there's a large discrepancy between the quotes. So I was just wondering what the construction method will be to Robert Nash for the 202.
Thank you, through your worship. So we did provide, we have a tender document, we have drawings and all those types of things. So this isn't just contracting a contractor to come out and plunk a culvert in. They're all required to submit for a multi-sectional box culvert with X amount of meters of cover over top and granular. We have to break rock. We have our environmental permits. So they all did bid on exactly the same thing. I think it's just a matter of who's hungrier than others. Some threw a price in and other ones were very aggressive. And I have absolutely no concerns with the low bid on this one. I've dealt with Rob Nash Excavating since I've come here, and I'm very, very happy with the service that we received from them.
As most of us around the table have too, but I just was questioning that. And yes, I do see bids thrown too. Thanks.
Just as an aside, we had a situation recently at county where the lowest bid was less than half than the other. It's a reasonable question to ask for sure, but they do all get the same bid package. So they're bidding on the same exact thing. So,
And reviewing the low bid is something that we do take serious, because you do get low bids sometimes that you have to.
sometimes there's been mistakes made or what have you, right?
Yep.
Counselor Foti, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, on the same subject, is there a time frame on this, or is that dependent?
So the contractors to provide their work schedule to us, we have provided that it has to be completed, I believe, by the end of August. And once they commence work, they are to complete it within a timely manner. They're not
Thank
to
you.
come and do some work and then leave. It's to be completed.
All right. Thank you.
Counselor, maybe follow up?
Thank you. Just as a follow-up, after this work's completed, will the road surface be changed or will it remain gravel?
The road surface on Kidd Road will remain granular. We are constructing this culvert so to allow for 2 lanes of traffic where we don't currently have that option there. So it will be wider, but it will still be a granular surface.
Okay, further comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item. Is operations report SR-046-223 RFT OPS 2023-007 19,500 pound GVWR truck complete with plow and sander. Motion comes forward from Councillor Lackey and Councillor Grell that council approve the award of tender OPS 2023-007 for a 19,500 pound GVWR truck complete with a plow and sander to Blue Mountain Chrysler in the amount of $142,123.10, inclusive of the net HST. That council authorized staff to reallocate funds from the acquisition of a utility van for the overage of $17,123.10. Discussion on this motion. Okay, no questions, so I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that council award tender OPS 2023-010 supply of equipment and operator for cover and compaction at 3 waste sites for a 3-year term to Fast Eddie Auto Recycling for $239,695.68, 2023 price, inclusive of the net HST. Discussion on this. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Just curious through you, Your Worship. Where does the cover material come from?
So thank you, through your worship, the cover material will come through our equipment and materials RFQ that we put out every year. So we will supply the material for this through that RFQ process.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you again. So we don't know at this point where or who?
So the RFQ for that closes on the 16th, and then we will have that answer at that point.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item, Councillor Grell, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that council approve the award of tender OPS 2023-011 renovation and accessibility upgrades to Township Administration Building to RK Porter General Contracting, Inc. in the amount of $235,586.18, inclusive of the net HST. Discussion on this motion. No further discussion. Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Moved by Counselor Maybe, seconded by Counselor Gorell, that the council award tender OPS 2023-005 dust suppressant 18 to 22% to road maintenance equipment and services RMES for $34,801.92, including net HST, and that council award tender OPS 2023-006 dust suppressant 30 to 35% to Dali Dust Control Limited for $108,069.12, including net HST. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Foding.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. How is this controlled? By the gallon? Like how are we controlling this application?
Thank you, through your worship. So the application rate is per liter per kilometer.
Pardon me? It's
Per liter,
right.
amount of liters of application per kilometer of surface that they're covering.
Okay. And that amount is the same each year?
That is correct.
The reason I asked the question, I had a number of residents in the area in which I live, myself included, that really questioned the amount applied last year. It just didn't appear like it was there. It didn't have the effect that it had other years. I mean, quite frankly, when these roads are applied with this dust suppressant, they have a wet look for quite some time afterward. That didn't appear to be the case last year. And it wasn't because roads were graded for any need afterward. And thus, we'll just leave it. We had a lot of questions last year as to whether the application rate was suffice or even comparable to other years.
I think the answer to the question is around what we're using for our surface material on the roads, where historically it's been more of a pit run, which will absorb. It's an aggregate from quarries now. It's a quarried aggregate, which doesn't have the same retention as the sand and the pit run that we have been getting historically. What we find at the same time is that it doesn't become as soft and mucky. Like we're actually using a proper quarried granular now for the surface, and instead of that sort of mixed aggregate. That some of the roads that we've indicated, Deeryaw Road is an example that it gets really soft by changing over, or Russell Road or Kidd Road North, by changing over to a quarried aggregate. Yes, it doesn't retain the dust suppressant quite as well, but the road will hold up a lot better because it has more structural adequacy as a result of that. So that's the sort of the trade-off. What we may have to do is look more towards the higher concentration and step away from the reduced concentration as a result of that. But that's something we can certainly look at moving forward.
Does that answer the question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Somewhat, yes. But it also couples in with the discussion we had, I believe, at budget time about the frequency of graders on gravel roads. I think for the sake of residents that live there, I won't go down the comment I made before about, that's our only pavement. And, but that pavement isn't really justified if it's left alone for months at a time and not being addressed on washouts, and of which we've had plenty. We'll just see what this year does and hope for the best.
And you're correct on that as well, that every time we break that surface, we are reducing the concentration further by opening it up and having it sort of resettle back in again. It doesn't have the same effect every time we crack that surface, for sure.
No, but with the compaction on each of the two road graders we have now, that has a much more lasting effect than we ever had before. I don't know how long we've had these compactors. It hasn't been that many years, but there's a noticeable difference. Noticeable. Thank you.
I have Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Director of Operations. Again, I have a couple questions here. The first is, similar to what Councillor Fody talked about, is that the roads are graded and the surface is treated, and it lasts for a good length of time. But with heavy use, rain and such, they pothole up pretty quickly. My favorite road close to me is one of the notorious ones that, a month down the way, you can drive down it and have to change your shocks by the time you get to the end. So why are we, letting the residents and everybody who uses the road endure that if we, what's the difference if it's graded and it's gravel and it's not as good? Send the grader down there and get rid of those potholes, because it is a concern, and I've heard enough about it. I have to admit, it's been an ongoing argument, particularly with that one road. So we need to maybe address it more quickly and monitor the road so that we don't have to have these calls from our residents and having these issues. Secondly, this particular contract is for 2 years. Last year, it was only a 1-year contract, correct?
No, last time was for 2 years as well.
Oh, time's passed that quickly.
Any further comments or questions for the director? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. And we're at number 12 on the agenda, which is the mayor's update. So if you will indulge me, March break is here. Please visit the community events calendar on our website for our upcoming events, including in the farmhouse and at Furnace Falls Farm. Maple syrup season is underway. And we are hoping that you will check out our maple syrup producers within the municipality. And I know that there's a number of them. So get out, experience the warmer, milder weather, and enjoy some of the sweet stuff. The 2023 bursary program is now accepting applications, and the deadline is March 31st to apply. So if you know of anybody in graduating high school looking to apply for post-secondary education, please have them apply to our bursary program. Calling all the property owners on private roads and lanes, TLTI private road grant for capital improvements is open for eligible road associations to upgrade their private roads and increase access for emergency vehicles such as fire and ambulance. Applications are due on June the 2nd. Lastly, I would just like to say thank you to the fire chief and all of the individuals who answered the call on Saturday, I believe. In Sealy's Bay, we had a structure fire. Luckily, no humans were harmed. I believe there was a cat saved as well. But we're grateful for the quick response and that nobody was injured, whether occupants or firefighters. They were there to answer the call. So much appreciated. And let's hope it'll be a long time before we have another call about that. So I'm not sure. It's still being investigated at this point. Any other? I don't think I have anything else. So I'm going to announcements now. Go ahead, Councillor James.
Just to remind that visitation for the deputy mayor is the 24th in the evening. And then the afternoon, I think it's the afternoon of the 25th. And I know it's on our site. And certainly a lot of us up in the ward will be down there. So just to remind. So we don't have another meeting before April.
Fair enough. Any other announcements of any other events or anything that's going on in the area? Sorry. Boundary Road. Open house. Sorry, come to the, you can. Go ahead.
You may have spoke about this, but the county hosting the open house in front of Young for the boundary.
Sorry, I was thinking the other Boundary Road, which is why I was confused. So there is an open house. Council should have received an invitation to the county open house for the Boundary Road regarding in between us and front of Young. So if you're able to attend, please do so. The more the merrier. I believe so. It's in the evening. So the county budget has not been confirmed yet. The recommendation is going to county council, which is a week from Thursday at 6.87%. That's taking into account a dedicated reserve of 2.5 for Mapleview Lodge. Also a dedicated reserve for roads and obviously all the additional costs that we have to incur due to inflation. So it started at 9.8 and is down to 6.87. So unfortunately, the treasurer's not here tonight, so I can't tell you what the consolidated tax increase would be based on that, but it's not locked in stone until next Thursday anyways. But as that information is proposed, we will put out a subsequent press release indicating to our taxpayers what the overall tax increase will be. Okay. Any further announcements? No, we'll be back before Easter, April 3rd. Moved by Councillor Grell, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaws 23-014, 23-017, 23-018, 23-019, 23-020, 23-2021, 23-022, 23-023, 23-024, and 23-025. And that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 23-026, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of the Corporation, Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its March 6th Committee of the Whole meeting and March 13th Council meeting. Councillor Garrell.
If I might, and through you, your worship, regarding the first bylaw listed 23-014, the amendment to establish and regulate a fire service. Just a quick question. Section 6 is the nut of it, where we have the remuneration will be under the firefighter compensation policy, which is well laid out. But when I get down to Schedule D, which is well done, there's no page numbers. So Schedule D is, and this is just really a question more than anything.
So this would have been in the report from last week, not in.
Well, I'm just curious. This part wasn't in there, or I didn't read it.
Can you
but
refer to a page number? Just
There
so that-
aren't page numbers, but it's 21-16, and it's the Section D, Mutual Aid Response Services. So in that, we have taken on a new volunteer compensation policy. I was just curious, does this influence in any way our mutual aid response? Do we receive funds for mutual aid response as we do with the MTO? Does this change? Do we need to make any changes with respect to that? I wouldn't have any idea at this time what we pay or receive for services rendered. Thank you.
So the fire chief is on the call. Chief Pryor, are you there?
Yes, and through you, your worship, to Councillor Grell, mutual aid, the mutual aid system within Leeds Grenville is similar to every other mutual aid system within the other counties. There is no pay for service between the fire departments. There's no payment back and forth between. It's just a mutual aid. So if we need help from, say, Rideau Lakes, we call for service through the dispatch. They send what we require. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were called to a barn fire in around Bush Road on County Road 15. We provided 2 tankers. We sent tankers there. We dropped a couple of loads of water to them, and then we were relieved. We also had a call in to Gananoque. So we have automatic aid agreements that there's no money transfer. There's also mutual aid agreements that there's no money transfer.
But an example would have been this very close to Bush Road last
Yes,
year on the
yes.
farm property where we had Rideau Lakes service there for a whole day.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and this is the way the fire services, because of the manpower issues that every fire service has that's volunteer. The municipalities basically lend out their service to help us, and we lend out to help them.
Councillor Lackey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, since it's been raised to the fire chief. What about Front of Young? Historically, there has been money exchange hands for services between ourselves and Front of Young. Has there not?
Through your worship, yes, to that. There is an agreement. I believe it's $45,000 a year we pay to Front of Young for the eastern half of the township, the old Escott half. So there's an automatic aid agreement that they respond, as well as we respond to various areas in the east end of the township. That predates me. That happened right after amalgamation that council at the time put in a policy that we pay for that service to Front of Young.
So I would say that if there are concerns about that, that's a conversation for a different day, and that I would encourage councillors to reach out to the fire chief and the CAO for further discussion if you want to open that up or look at that any further. Okay, with all the details in front of us, of course, so that we understand what we're talking about. Does that satisfy you, Councillor Grell? Perfect. Okay. So I've read all the bylaws. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Next item is Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that the council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you, everyone. Have